It is August the 7th, 1485. This is Mill Bay in the far west of Pembrokeshire. A young nobleman is sailing to the land of his fathers. He's been in exile in France. His mission is to capture the crown of England. He may be half English and a quarter French, but he makes no secret of the fact that this is the land of his birth. For the first time, a self-proclaimed Welshman will become King of England. Under the dynasty that he starts, Wales will be united with England, and for every generation of Welsh people to come, the consequences will be immense. But what exactly that means in the coming 2.5 centuries will depend on who you are, whether you're a wealthy landowner or one of the ordinary people.
Henry Tudor is sailing to Wales to meet his destiny, a battle with the English King Richard at Bosworth. It's the culmination of a bloody struggle for the English crown between two power-hungry clans, York against Lancaster, the Wars of the Roses. And Henry comes proclaiming his Welsh blood and asking his fellow countrymen to take up arms with him. En route, his supporters sew a homemade flag for Henry's army, the Tudor colours of green and white, with the fire-breathing Red Dragon of Wales. But if Henry thinks the Welsh peasants and the Welsh gentry will flock instantly to his side, he'll have to think again.
Wales is in a pitiful state and has been for 200 years. No proper institutions, no court, no capital, no real means of steering her own destiny. And that's before you factor in the Black Death, which has wiped out a quarter of the population, the endless failed harvests, and the terrible suffering. So is there any cause for hope? Well, not really. The son of destiny, Owain Glyndŵr, has risen up and been defeated.
As Henry sends out his lieutenants to rally the Welsh gentry, they move into a land where life for the Werin Bobol, the peasants, is as nasty and short as it is anywhere in Europe. But Wales is different in one crucial way. As a conquered country, even its wealthiest families are excluded from power and influence in the highest courts of the land. If there are some small signs of progress since the days of Glyndŵr in church life, architecture and poetry, they hardly amount to a great leap forward. In the towns and villages Henry's forces pass through, Haverfordwest, Fagwr Lloyd, Cardigan, people's lives are dominated by age-old rituals and beliefs. After the defeat of Glyndŵr, some are bound to wonder if a new son of destiny is on the march. But perhaps it's the gentry above all who might be persuaded that Henry Tudor is the man to restore their fortunes. When he reaches Aberystwyth, Henry's path turns eastwards towards the heart of England, and his knights are bringing back to him promises of support.
All the same, the people's response is rather lukewarm. There's a story I'd like to share. It's a bit of local tradition, really, which hints at how tricky things were for Henry. He's on his way from Machynlleth to Welshpool, and he stays the night here, at this house. It's called Mathafarn, and it's owned by a man called, wait for it, Dafydd Llwyd ap Llywelyn ap Griffith. Let's call him Dafydd for short. Dafydd is a poet. He also has the gift of prophecy, or so it's said. So it's a perfectly natural thing for Henry to ask him the direct question, will I gain the crown of England? And Dafydd simply can't answer, until his wife chips in and says, you might as well say yes, because, let's face it, if he fails, he's not coming back here. So in these parts at least, confidence in Henry is rather fragile.
Still, the only way for Henry now is forward to his destiny at Bosworth. But if Wales is slow to come to Henry's side, his English allies are even slower. Right up until the decisive moment of the battle, the fate of the whole enterprise and Dafydd's prophecy is in doubt.
Henry's army is outnumbered by at least 2 to 1, but Richard divides his forces into 3 groups. In contrast, Henry keeps his force together to withstand the initial attack. Richard still has men in reserve, so he orders his second group to attack. But the men don't move. Has the king been betrayed? Richard gambles his life by charging across the battlefield to try to kill Henry. The move backfires. Richard and his bodyguards get separated from the rest of the army. More of the uncommitted troops join Henry's side, and one of Henry's lieutenants drives a spear through the king's heart. So who kills Richard? Who delivers that fatal blow? We'll never know. But there is a potential clue carved into this magnificent bed. It belongs to a Welsh nobleman called Rhys ap Thomas. One look at it tells you that he's a man of means. I want to look at the intricate carving around the edge of the bed. It tells us the story of Rhys ap Thomas's rather exciting life. And focus on this section here. 2 knights charging at each other. A horse here which has lost its shoe. And that could easily be a reference to Richard, who is famously unhorsed in the Battle of Bosworth. And in Shakespeare's version of that event, cries out, "A horse, my kingdom for a horse."
So is this the bed of a man who killed a king? All over Wales, there are now people who are happy to see the Tudor triumph at Bosworth as a Welsh triumph. And Henry is genuinely indebted to Rhys ap Thomas and those Welsh landowners who've supported him. Henry himself comes from Welsh gentry stock, the Tudors of northwest Wales, and they're one remarkable family.
Henry Tudor would have grown up with tales of this place. This is Penmynydd in Anglesey, one of the seats of his family, who'd served the Welsh princes 3 centuries before, and who'd fought for their cousin, Owain Glyndŵr, in his great uprising. And Henry no doubt would have been intrigued to learn how his grandfather had met his grandmother. Owain Tudor, that's Owain ap Narrated ap Tudur, had fought for the English king, Henry V. And after Henry's death, well, Owain somehow managed to catch the eye of Henry's widow, Catherine of Valois, Queen Catherine, The story is they were at a dance together, he was a bit drunk, she took a fancy to him. That's Welsh charm for you. But let's pause a second, because there's a danger that we're getting slightly carried away. Henry VII, Henry Tudor, the great Welsh hero. Is he? It's not clear. He's a quarter Welsh. Yes, he is born in Wales. He spends most of his life away from Wales. There's no evidence that he speaks or understands Welsh. Yes, he does have a red dragon on his banner, but then he has lots of banners. And it is a detail on his royal crest. I think it's fair to say that he takes the English crown for himself and for his family. It's not some great act of liberation for the Welsh people. In effect, he becomes just another English king. And yet that royal magic seems to do the trick. Because what happens is that the people of Wales believe, they desperately want to believe, that they have a special connection with Henry Tudor. And not just with him, but with his son and grandchildren. The future Tudor kings and queens, from Henry VIII to Elizabeth I. And it's the vigour of that Tudor bloodline which transforms England from a bit of a backward kingdom to a major world power. So I'm going to dare to suggest that the British Empire starts here.
Henry's first son is born the year after Bosworth. Henry calls him Arthur, a name linked by now with claims to the English throne, but one steeped in ancient Welsh history too. Henry sends Arthur here to Ludlow in the Welsh Marches and makes him Prince of Wales. He's going to be schooled for his future as a monarch by ruling a principality. And it's a complex task. Though Wales has been conquered and subdued, things are still different here. Even the Marches, the most accessible parts of the country, are not part of the English legal system. They're governed by the Council of the Marches, which has its headquarters in Ludlow. And the plan is to get the young Prince Arthur to run it. In 1501, Arthur marries Catherine of Aragon, but the following year, he dies suddenly. When his younger brother Henry inherits the crown, and his brother's wife, the anomalies of governing Wales come to prove unacceptable to a king who keeps his realm safe by firm central control. But Henry VIII has plenty of other things on his mind. Famously, religion and marriage. And it's 20 years into his reign before he's able to sort out the matter of Wales.
This is where the story of Wales changes course. It's a seismic change set out in this Act of Parliament demanded by Henry VIII. It joins the government and legal systems of England and Wales. In other words, it is an act of union. And for the first time in history, this document is on Welsh soil, here at the National History Museum in Cardiff. And I have to say, as a Welshman, it is a very powerful experience to be able to touch this document and to read some of its content. For example, henceforth, no person or persons that use the Welsh speech or language shall have